Good afternoon. This is Winston Cunningham. Just wanted to introduce myself and talk for a minute about what I've gone through up to this point, or briefly. It's 1 o'clock and it's November the 3rd, 2022. I grew up in church. The back row was my seat, naturally. I now know that before I checked into this body, still existing as a soul, I chose a family where I would have to be in church all the time. Well, that's what the reason I chose that is because I needed to know what it was that I needed to rise above. It was religion. And by the time I was 11 years old, I began to see some differences in what I was hearing and what I was seeing. And a lot of interesting things happened, but the specific event I wanted to point out was when I was 11 years old, I think, or close there about somewhere. I was listening to what was going on in church from my view from the back pew. And I said, these people seem to have lost track of God. I said, what's going on here? And I was talking within myself. I just said, well, where is God? Well, the answer was immediate. And I was pointing right here above my head. I knew that that was accurate, but I didn't really understand it until I got to the School of Metaphysics. That would be when I was 42 years old. So meanwhile, I gathered up a lot of information from various sources and so forth. And I can talk more about that later in another time. But I did rise above religion and in stages. And the way I found the School of Metaphysics, just to cut it short, is that I'd been divorced at 40 and I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, that area, because I wanted to fool with music and so forth. And I didn't know that what it was is my future teacher had come to the Nashville area to start a branch of the School of Metaphysics. Well, the School of Metaphysics started in the place I just came from. But during my marriage, I knew not to start anything new. You should find a way to get in the way of it. So I didn't. But I appreciate the fact that my own soul connected me with what I needed, and it was in Nashville, even though I had to come here to find it. So I reached a point to where I say, I know that there's a system available that will help me understand how things work and to get a handle on some of this stuff. And I said, I don't care where it is. I don't care what you call it. I want it. But now I was talking to myself like I'm doing now, and somebody else may be listening, I don't know. But I was talking within myself, and so I said, what I said next is what caused it to come into being. I said, I will have it. Now, if you go back and read the words of Jesus real careful, you'll hear that. If you look a little bit deeper, it won't be on the surface. So anyway, the School of Metaphysics is what showed up. And my first night in class, I was saying, damn, these people speaking my language. And up until that point, I had not met one person, place, or thing that was anything like what I was thinking. And I said, well, if it is that I'm the one that's bad wrong here, at least I got some company now. So that's the way it started for me. But anyway, I won't go into a lot of detail. A lot of my talks may center on parts of what I learned going through the process. And the School of Metaphysics is the instruction and everything. It put me through the waking up process. That's what I call it. uh, and most of the planet, from what I can see, is still asleep. And I do know the difference because I grew up with a whole building of sleeping zombies. That's the way I've come to see it because they don't know the difference yet. If they did, they'd be doing something about it. But now, but the secret to the whole thing is that you don't have to know. You will eventually, but I mean, you don't have to do it right now. So you will know what basically the things I've learned that the most important thing is the question. And I had some questions at school and church didn't even approach. So I wanted to know. I had to know, but I said I will know. That's the thing that caused it to come to me. And so my life began to change at 42 at the School of Metaphysics. And so I appreciate Nancy Hayek for coming to Nashville to start the branch school to give me a place to study. And at one point, it looked like the school was something else was going to happen to it. So I got busy and started work. I wanted to be sure that it didn't go away before I was through studying. So I made sure it stayed open, and I did enough for that. But that's another story as well. But basically, that's what changed things for me. And right now, when I was at the school, I developed I saw a lot of things within myself that I didn't know was there. And of course, that's why the school exists, is so you can learn how to look within. And that's what they do, teach you how to think, and not what to think, but how. Because there's a procedure that works better than some other procedures, like what's being used in religion. Keep coming back to the same thing, and they're going to keep it until they say, whoa, there may be something else here. And there's a bunch. So I don't know that I need to say any more than that, except that I'm now 79, just turned 79 October the 9th. And I'm going through the worst situation of my life financially. But on the other hand, I'm feeling better than I ever have in my life. And I'm looking forward to, this is a new thing, and I appreciate Terrence Lamont to Bellows for inviting me to speak. And because I've been looking for a way to talk to people without making everybody mad, which I'm accustomed to do, not intentionally. So Lamont here has a platform that I can use, and it seems to be already built. There's a ready-made audience that may be a little bit more receptive to what I'm talking about than ordinary folks like my family, who holds up the cross in front of me every time come to see me. When my folks found out I was studying metaphysics, the first thing they sent me was a Bible, because I hadn't had one in a while. And so I was surprised to find out that's what I needed, because everything that I was being taught was based on, it came from the Bible, which is I learned is a textbook of mind, but it's coded in language of mind. And that's why most people don't understand it, because they're trying to get it all off the surface, and that's not possible. It'll keep you in the same place if you look on the surface. But anyway, that And after a while at the school, the first time I went back to my hometown in Texas, uh, and, it's like I was a vampire walking in, and they was holding up the cross and trying to protect themselves or something. And even my brother-in-law, uh, when I started talking about him, he backed up and said, "Now, Winston, I don't believe that shit." So that's the way it started, and that part has not really changed with my family. They still love me, but they don't know why. And I love them, but uh, uh, there are just certain things that they don't like to talk about, or they don't like to hear me talk about. I'll put it that way. But I offer, you know, I talk to anybody, anywhere. Uh, I go to the YMCA up here every day in Smyrna, Tennessee, and the last few years I've made it a habit that when I'm through with what I need to do, I'll sit down in the coffee area just so people that need to talk can come over and talk. And there's been a number of occasions where people have come and sit down and talk to me, and it's the only time I've ever seen them. I give them what they need, and they're on their way. And that's what I do. And of course, I tell people if they want to know anything, just ask me. Uh, and usually after I'm through talking, I'll say, well, no charge for that. And they all kind of expect. And one guy named Kent, I call him Superman for short, he told me one time, said, "Now, Winston, you don't have to talk all the time." But actually I do, because I remember at School of Metaphysics when I got my first health reading, or the health report they call it now, it was pointed out that I needed to be expressing myself, not so much for what other people could hear, but so I could hear it. So when I'm talking to these other people, I'm like a third person that's observing the whole thing. So I see a lot. And it reminds me of the words of Jesus I've become familiar with. He said, "For those who have eyes, see." For people who have eyes, they see. That's what they do. And so that's kind of where I am. And I can see a little bit more than I could earlier on. Although I was seeing a lot more early on than I knew how to admit until I got to School of Metaphysics and started hearing some stuff that made sense. And so every day I wound up telling somebody about the School of Metaphysics every day, because it was where I found what I needed. Now there may be other. I think if a person focuses on the question in their mind, just focus on the question. See, the most important thing is the question. And I tell people, all this stuff rattling around in the head, just pour it into a funnel, and what comes out at the bottom will be coalesced into a key question. We'll focus on that question, because that's the most important thing. And the second most important thing is finding an answer to that question. The third most important thing is next question. And that's pretty much the whole process. So as long as you got a question that needs an answer and you're looking for the answer, ain't that what Jesus said to do? Well, and I'll talk more about many things as we go on here. I don't know what else I could tell you at this point. I think I've probably talked long enough. Just wanted to show you my pretty shirt, because my Facebook picture, my son, who lives in Florida now, said, "Dad, you need to change shirts or something, or get a different." So this is for my son. Looks a little bit better than my T-shirt, which reminds me of Jerry Rothschild, who's credited for initiating or at the beginning of the building of the School of Metaphysics. I remember Connie Rothschild told me they had a hard time getting him to dress up to go do an interview, even a TV interview or something. They finally got him. They had put on a jacket, but they had a hard time getting him to wear some shoes. he liked to just hang around in his khakis and moccasins, and so that's the way he did. We got somewhat acquainted. I never was in a class of his, but my teacher, Nancy Hayek, was in his class, and she told me a lot of her experiences. And of course, every time I would go to the College of Metaphysics, I'd have a good conversation with Tad Messenger, who seemed to be embody the essence of just wanting to serve, and so we would have some good conversation because he said, being at the college all the time, he could catch Jerry on a Saturday after he got through watching cartoons, that he could sit and ask him questions about the Bible. So Tad and I had some good conversations. But anyway, I just want to let you know who I am and kind of what I look like. Sorry about that. And I'll talk to you later. I'm Winston Cunningham, and like Minnie Pearl, just proud to be here. Bye.